So, Mark, what do you know about the religious repressions in Ukraine?
What?
What do you know about religion repressions in Ukraine?
These words, I hear the words, I understand them, I can translate them, but they just don't mean anything to me. I understand, you understand, like Ukraine religious, what is that? I mean, like, no, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, actually, because for the past 30 years, Ukraine has been home to various cultures and religions. And somehow everybody was free to roam and do whatever they want to do, including Russian Orthodox Church that has enjoyed a tremendous amount of freedom and influence up until 2018. But now, yet again, the question of religion and religion oppressions is being used in information war against Ukraine by bad actors doing bad things. This is Ukrainian Toronto Television podcast. My name is Melania. This is my co-host Mark, and we're gonna talk to you about demolitions of churches today.
Not burning them, just demolition.
This episode does not have a Mark Vickerness seal of approval because everything was kind of legal, but nevertheless. So, what is the fuss all about? This year, this month actually, people demolished a thing that resembles a church in the heart of Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, on the territory of old, very important Ukrainian cultural heritage. And people did it because this was an illegal construction, which was infested in none other but Russian Orthodox Church, whatever remained of it. And something that is important to understand is that Russian church isn't exactly a church, right, Mark?
Yeah, well, it's totally a church. I mean, it has its crosses over it, but the problem is, at some point in Soviet Russia, long before now, they decided that fighting Russian Orthodox Church is not really productive because people are still remaining Christians. They reinstated church. They started giving it a little bit more attention. Churches became more allowed in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union stopped destroying them. But there was one caveat, because those priests, they became something you could call an asset for Russia's intelligence service, because they could not control churches, because they controlled everything. And this tradition, it went through decades and went through actually governments and was brought to Russian Federation as well. And the Russian Church, Russian Orthodox Church in Russian Federation is not a church, it's not like Catholic Church or any other church, It's a government church. It is the church which is controlled by the government, which says whatever government wants and which supports anything government wants and helps it to achieve its goals. And one of its goals is regional expansion and its imperial ambitions and cultural expansion, you can call that. And Russian Orthodox Church exists in Ukraine, exists in Belarus, exists in many other countries which were Soviet republics at some point, and also it exists abroad, but mainly in ex-Soviet republics. And its main aim is political. It's not spiritual. It's not some kind of organizational. It's just political aim. And me and Melania, we were witnesses of that. People we know who went to these churches were told who to vote for, and you can guess. Guess which candidates they asked people to vote for. They told any kind of misinformation regarding Ukraine, regarding Ukrainian history, regarding Russia, regarding COVID, vaccinations, any
Basically
stuff which
anything. Books, learning languages, traveling abroad, wearing pants. I mean, it is literally sometimes you cannot go into a Russian Orthodox church if you're a woman when you're wearing pants, because apparently I guess Russian Orthodox Church and Islam are way more, connected than you would think. Anyway, so yeah, all of these things, and that's why it has been long established, and I think we have talked about this on this channel before. It is long established that Russian Orthodox Church poses a threat to Ukrainian national security. And it has been long overdue to dismantle, because Russian Orthodox Church has enjoyed this level of influence in Ukraine. They were virtually able to build or do anything they wanted to do, because a lot of Ukrainian political leaders, before the Revolution of Dignity of 2014 and before this like huge steady way of reforms, they were very, very willing to abide by whatever the Orthodox Church told them to do. Something else that has to be understood is that there were two Orthodox churches in Ukraine, the Orthodox Church of Moscow Patriarchate and of Kiev Patriarchate. And it was very common for Ukrainian politicians, political elites, to abide by the dominant church, which was at some point the Orthodox Church of Moscow Patriarchate. And the Kiev Patriarchate was kind of underneath that influence and was not really a subject to anything. And it was it was actually more than that. It was like parasitical, symbiotical relationship of two churches that actually did not represent any sort of God on earth, but actually the culture and influence of the country of Russia. So when all that went away and Ukrainian Orthodox Church gained its own self and were proclaimed to be an independent church, not a patriarchy of a bigger metropoly, which happened in 2019. Ever since, it has been a constant battle of how to free Ukrainian cultural narrative and how to rid it of these people. And because these guys built anything they wanted, anywhere they wanted, there was this church in downtown Kyiv. It has been deemed illegal for the longest time. And like everything else in this country, sometimes ordinary people have to take charge and do things that state cannot afford or doesn't have the time to do. Where do you think, Mark, as per usual, Ukraine get the money to dismantle the church?
People.
Like usual, yeah. So as long as Ukrainians are used to purchasing weapons to kill invaders of their country, they're also perfectly able to donate money for somebody to dismantle an illegal church infested with Russian agents. And this is what happened.
Not exactly illegal church, illegal building.
Yes, illegally
building. On the historic monuments.
Yes, it's very important to say. Yeah, nobody banned unfortunately, nobody banned Russian Orthodox Church, unlike some bad people would like you to believe. I'm gonna insert pictures here. Nevertheless, these people like to claim that some kind of church was banned, or whatever it was. But the point is, people collected money, wanted to pay a contractor to dismantle it, and the contractor said, hey, I'm going to do this for free, and we're going to donate the money you sent us to the Ukrainian military. And everybody was happy. Not. Because the next day after the church was... by the way, the people who served in that church, the priests and stuff, they knew this was coming. This wasn't a secret. So they sneakily took out everything that was of value. And the next day they came there and they cried for hours, complaining about stolen things that were never stolen and all of that. This is not even interesting at this point. The point is, some things came to their natural state. The illegal church building is no longer there. Everything is coming back to the way it was supposed to be. But why are we making this video then, Mark? What's the reason why we're making this video?
Let me guess. Russian informational campaign against Ukraine?
Yes.
Calling Ukrainians antichrist or something like that?
Yeah. Those are the same people who call Ukrainians antichrists. The same people remove crosses from their own churches. We have actually discussed this
one of our best videos.
One of our best videos. Literally people just like cutting off crosses and, praising Satan 24/7. So this is actually very important to understand. I don't know how else to spin it. It is very important to understand this isn't some sort of plot and some sort of conspiracy by the government to suppress somebody's religion and suppress the freedom of speech, because Zelensky is Satan and Biden is super Satan, and together they want to forbid Marjorie Taylor Greene from visiting a Russian Orthodox church in occupied Ukraine with capital in Moscow. No, this isn't. This is the very fact that Ukrainians have raised more than 700,000 hryvnias for the demolition of that church. And somebody gave 5 hryvnias, somebody gave 50 hryvnias. The amount of money collected in a couple of hours to pay the contractor to dismantle that building by ordinary citizens, and the contractor then refuses to get paid for it and transfers the money to the Ukrainian military and does it for free. This is the very point of Ukrainian democracy and will of the people that, people like to talk about when they reference something, democracy in its classic way. There was no kind of order from the top. We used to have this joke about how Obama would order Poroshenko to bomb Donbass, and there was these funny pictures with like Obama saying, "Please, Poroshenko, bomb the children on Donbass," and then Poroshenko was like, "Yes, sir, will do," and then there are signatures. No, this isn't the case. We don't do that here. It's just people were tired. And by the way, that church building was in nobody's way. So it wasn't under somebody's house. Like, this wasn't about, opening your window from your room and looking at the church and being like, oh, this is illegal and ugly, that should be dismantled. No, it's so far away from where people live, yet people felt it necessary to remove that because they knew the value of it and they knew how dangerous these things are.
Yeah, that's the territory of Historical Museum of Ukraine, one of the main museums historical of Ukraine, and that's the place where there was a church in, I think, 11th and 12th centuries before the Mongol Mongol invasion, before Mongols destroyed the church, and there are like these ruins which are the foundation of this church, which you can imagine what the church was, etc., etc. And this building, this small illegal building built of sticks and shit, was just placed over there, and they called it church. And they basically made like this is the tent. They basically put the tent over there, put some gold over it, put some cross over it, and said, "Look, this is a church. You cannot move it. It's ours now." And nobody for I don't know how long is it there? 20 years?
Yes.
15
nobody
years?
did anything for like...
Nobody did anything to it because everyone was afraid. And everyone was afraid of this Church of Russian Patriarchy because they have so much political influence. Most of Ukrainian presidents were attendees of this church.
They had to be if they wanted to be valid, because the Russian Orthodox Church was so influential that if you weren't in their favor, they would turn people against you, and they gladly and often do that.
Yeah. So this, like, they still have a lot of churches in Ukraine. They still have a lot of historic churches which shouldn't be theirs. And this is people who are spreading Russian influence and Russian cultural influence. These are the people who obey to the people who call for genocide of Ukraine.
So, this isn't a conspiracy. This isn't a way to fight God, of whatever God. This isn't, this isn't even the prohibition of obvious propaganda of Russian political aims in Ukrainian culture sphere. It's not. Nobody can ban. There's freedom of speech. People are allowed to say whatever they want. And if they are, telling in their churches horrible stuff about how Ukraine is bad and Russia's good, nobody can do anything about it because, well, we're a democratic country, for God's sake. And we can't ban people from doing that.
Imagine there was some, terrorist organization which like committed 9/11, killed several thousand people, and then this terrorist organization puts a tent close to the George Washington monument, which says Al Qaeda, whatever, and so people decide to remove the tent because it's like it's not good, right? And then everyone's shouting, "Yeah, Islamophobia, huh?"
Funny you should say that, because something like that actually happened after 9/11, on the different side though. But again, that's democracy. That's how the way it works, unfortunately. There was this man from a Muslim community who wanted to build a Muslim center near the 9/11 site in order to take care of young lost souls who were turning to extremism and who had radical beliefs. And he felt it that, this would be a good sign to kind of build that Muslim center there, to work with the young people so as not to repeat the 9/11 tragedy ever again. But when that idea rose to prominence and people found out about it, they were very offended because, well, the tensions were high and the people came out there and did a demonstration, and that center never came to be. Because this is how things work sometimes. This is how
Wait
things
a
work.
second.
Some things are...
What about freedom of the religion? I mean,
Marjorie Taylor Greene won't tell you that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at Ukraine and Ukraine's levels of freedom of the religion, if you look what Ukraine's main imam says, what Ukraine's main rabbi says.
By the way, Ukraine's main rabbi congratulated Azov Battalion with their birthday the other day.
Yeah, because he's not infested by Russian propaganda. He's on the ground. He's a religious leader, and he's a good religious leader who cares about people of his religion and not about politics. Even though his country, not his country, but Israel, is not really fond of Ukraine. Israel's ambassador in Ukraine is really pro-Russian, if you look at what he says. Meanwhile, Rabbi is congratulating Azov. So yeah, we have plenty of freedom of religion. Maybe too much of it sometimes.
This podcast is taking a conservative turn. We're having too much religious freedom. Actually, no. I'm actually perfectly satisfied with the amount of religious freedom we have in Ukraine.
Nah, it's okay. We are fine with
everything. We're fine. If anything does not need fixing in Ukraine is religious freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. If anything, nobody's burning books in Ukraine and banning books from schools.
Only Russians do. But if anything, countries in the West could learn a thing or two about freedom of religion in Ukraine, right?
I could actually give you this amazing opportunity. So let's call it big exchange day. We give you our lesson in democracy and tell you, how to do unto others like you would be, wanted to be done unto you. And we tell you about religious freedoms, and you give us 6 HIMARS launchers. How about that? You can't
Sounds
put
good.
a price on freedom and being nice.
Sounds great. I think that this is the very important lesson. Do to others what do you want from others to do to you, right?
Somebody would even call that a thing that is that exists in every single religion in the world.
Yeah, this is a valuable idea. When we share society,
came up with and did not steal from anybody.
from
anyone. No, that we just came up with it.
For more wisdom, please subscribe to our channel. I don't know why I do that.
No, this is very good. It's very good. Yes, if you would like to hear more obvious wisdoms that you have otherwise might not have heard, please subscribe. Yes, leave a comment. What else? Comment on Mark's hair, as usual. Beautiful, luscious
Ring a
locks.
bell, right?
Yes,
because
ring
that's
a
very Christian thing to do.
Yeah. If you're Christian, ring a bell. If you love Jesus, ring a bell. If you love other religions, ring a bell. Put a like if you love Satan, and if you love Jesus, and if you love, whatever religion there is, just they love the bells, ding, ding, ding.
We should stop before we got cancelled.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
See you next week. Bye.